Spaz on this motherfucker.
How's it going, everybody? It's Man Tomorrow here. I want to thank y'all for coming through tonight. What we're going to do, we're going to discuss something very important because we keep hearing this term over and over again within Black America. I hear it a lot throughout my life, but you need to understand that the best way to get the wrong type of results is to practice the right ways, the wrong things when you have the actual information in front of you. So what I'm going to do is going to go through my actual 30-minute opening. Then we're going to bring Mike B on so that way we can be able to discuss this issue. So that way we can be able to go through. I want to thank the people for coming through. Thank you for liking the video. I'm coming through. Um, my position within the Man of Spirits and Man of Tomorrow is to actually bring forth all men to an actual position and point to where they're not dependent on people within society to actually give them their self esteem. Is to find it within. You don't need anybody else's help but your own action out there, and your own research today is going to beat out everybody else's process that they've actually practiced through yesterday. Because the only thing that matters right now is outcomes and results. But I keep hearing this term about getting it out of the mud and how people actually brag that this is an actual verified way of doing things. I'm just going to say that that is not the case. I want to welcome my guest here, Mike B. What's going on, man?
Yo, what's going on, MOT?
All right, man. So I'm gonna go through my 20-minute opening, and then we're gonna bring Mike B on. Not sure what happened to the other screen. Keep going. Um, so right now we're just gonna go through the actual opening. There's no actual reason to get things out of it. Today, every path is actually established. Every path has actual people that you can actually go through. There's actually mentors on every path that you could possibly think of. I know, I know. But what you have to realize that the actual path today is something that you don't need to be repeating itself. Like you need to understand that. Yeah, I know. It's on for a reason. Yeah. So what we're going to talk about is the actual established path. Imagine if you was going through the civil rights movement and you knew any, and that you didn't know anything about any other path within society about how to get specific results. You would think that you would have to go through things the hardest way possible in order to get those actual results itself. Like you have other people who went through things themselves and they didn't go about things the right way. There was always an established system, an established path for you to be able to go through things. But you decide to go through the hardest things possible. There's really no rationale to actually go through and pick ineffective people to go to an effective result. A lot of people talk about the Japanese after World War II, how they're sent to internment camps. Those actual military bases are still under lockdown and can't nobody actually go out there and actually see those things that are going on. You study the actual path of the Native Americans. You study the path of the actual Jewish American citizens that's been here with the country with what they went through. None of those people was given anything. They didn't get it out the mud. They actually got themselves together as a people, being productive, forming productive families, and then they went after the actual system as a group to get things done. So what we're doing here is we're doing things in the opposite direction. We're actually trying to depend on entertainers who have came to prominence because of the actual situations that are happening today to actually bail out the collective rest of the people in society from those circumstances that they're actually been through. And that's just not how those things work. Like, getting it out of the mud actually means that there's a lot of room left for interpretation, a lot of room left for people who don't understand the process at all. And it's going to have you doing a whole bunch of ineffectual things that's going to seem like entertainment because it is. When you don't go about things the right way, it comes off as entertainment. The actual way that you actually go through things is the way that's established. And if you don't like that pattern in the system, then your actual participation need to be nearly 100% to actually change that pattern system itself. This is not hard. All other people have actually went through these things themselves. But when you have people who simultaneously don't want to see the strength of other people, who want to be the voice of the people, these are the actual things you actually run into over and over again. Because the only thing they can do is re-sow in the same conversation over and over again. Like most of these black guys on YouTube, before Black Lives Matter even was a thing, it was pretty well obvious where black people stood on conservatism. However, the Black Lives Matter movement, the LGBT community, who's not even caring about or going after black people at all, in any stretch of the imagination, the actual Second Amendment, which never really applied to us. If you don't believe me, go down south and so-called and brandish your weapon in the wide open and see whether or not that they checked who you are as a person before they actually pull your ass over and see what you actually do. All these things. Like, if you keep going after the wrong type of representatives to bring the right type of power to you, you're going to keep going through the same problems over and over again. Did these people not make a mockery out of going after Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, even though those people do have actual wins under their belts when it came to certain issues? These entertainers today don't have any of those type of conclusions when it comes to actually helping out their people. So if you look at it today as it was before, you would actually see that entertainers never bring progress to the actual people. You don't believe me? Look at Rush Limbaugh. Made over the height of $550 to $750 million a year. That isn't just in advertising revenue with his actual excellent broadcasting network. You don't know how much he was paid for spots going other places. Those people never really brought any type of result to the actual. They put an actual narrative out there in front of the people that never really had them moving toward any type of success and result. Because the reason why those people came there was not the reason why they actually stayed there. They came there for help. You're right. Bill O'Reilly, Alex Jones, Sean Hannity, XYZ. And these black conservatives in this space knows that these people exist. But the great thing about being that style of conservative is that you don't even have to understand the issues. The only thing you have to understand is the fact that these people are never going to change. And you need to present things a very certain way, so that way you can be in charge of the voice of them without really helping them. And the actual people who brought tangibles to the table, who could actually help the people out of their situation, they become the actual enemy of removing comfort for those actual individuals who's actually trying to sell you a narrative. You see, it was a bait and switch. In exchange for comfort, you decided that holding the problem in place rather than adjusting to it was a better option for you. But see, the actual culture warrior don't want to do things the right way. This is why you're going to always have these people who pop up out of nowhere. We had whole musical movements centered around the same type of nonsense. We had the NWA, Tupac, all this kind of other stuff. Who wanted to be the Ice Cube? Who wanted to be the voice of the people? Who made a lot of money off stating the problem. But when it came to a pathway to an actual solution that actually revolved around skills and abilities, forming effective families, having better outcomes and results, that was never part of the conclusion. They only wanted to get you to the table as understanding that the problem exists. And you need to realize and understand that those things don't actually work in society when you're talking about getting out of the mud. Because if you're ever part of any type of certification agency, there is a certain amount of hours, like being a police officer. There's a certain amount of hours that you have to put in to be certified by the state to be an actual police officer. Like all my graduation certificates, it doesn't matter whether it was for a CDL or even for the Air Force when I actually graduated from the actual police academy. This person has completed X amount of hours in this field under these disciplines in order to get a specific type of result. It's no different from being a mechanic, being ASE certified. It's no different than being part of a union and actually go through union training for an electrician, all those other things. Imagine having those things together there, and then you have a person who walks up, who try to make the self-taught way be the actual. Now, we know self-taught people are actually pretty good at what they do, but they're pretty disciplined in what they're actually doing. They're far outbeats any type of established mechanism or system because they put way more time into what's going on. But when you're actually dealing with people who's trying to get it out of the mud, they always sound like the dudes who got a fifth grade education. They always sound like dudes who are either the cleanup man for the actual circumstances that are going on within the environment that has nothing to do with them. They're never trying to correct the actual selection criteria of the domestic counterpart within society. They're never actually trying to come out here and actually be involved in politics locally within their area. The only thing that they're here to do is satisfy the status quo, which is what all people who are comfortable here and who are making it here doing. If you look at the Robert F. Smith interview anywhere on YouTube, it has nothing. It pales in comparison to any of these local clowns who've come around today talking half of the stuff that he was talking about, but they got 50,000 times the actual eyeballs. You have to understand that the new level of masculinity, no thanks to the actual counterpart running the environment, is the actual idea that people now see black male masculinity as eyeballs, black male masculinity as sharing frauds, YouTube channels, and posts on their channels about stirring up the culture war. When these people have not did any tangibles that are on the ground. It's bringing on 67-year-old women to talk about the things that she talked about in 1989. It's about not providing tangibles and results for the people that you claim that you want to help. Because see, they're not the haters. I'm only the hater for bringing it up. That we should be grown past this actual type of system that we're actually doing here. And a lot of these people want to look at themselves that, oh, I'm just an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman. No, dude, you're in the business of holding people hostage through their emotional upbringing. You're not trying to move people from one position to another. You're trying to hold them response so that way you can emotionally take advantage of them through their non-ability to move forward. You see, you have to recognize that when other people look at you, they look at the things that are popular in the actual culture. You know, I went to a defense industry event and somebody was trying to talk to me about Lizzo and who the hell is going to be recast as Black Panther. Like, that ain't the type of shit I'm into. But if they come to the actual internet and they actually look at what Black people actually talk about and they look at where the majority of views are, they're going to think this is exactly what your culture actually represents. Because this is where the actual eyeballs are at. So they recently assumed that most of the people who are with you are actually stuck on the same stuff. And I'm like, no, why don't you talk to me about politics? What do you feel about this? What do you think about this? What do you think's going on here? And see, once you start having those type of conversations, those type of people who they thought inside their head were the representatives of the culture. No, the representative of the culture is standing in front of your face, trying to do business. The representative of the actual culture that you think you can get over on is actually out there representing the culture. The people who actually want to move things forward are not getting 1,000 views on YouTube. Most of the business people on here that I turn people on to, they don't even get any views at all. But these people give out $1 million worth of advice every single day. But since they're not trying to clean up out the uncultured women and their kids and trying to sell hope to broken women, you never even hear these dudes. But you have to realize that there's a such thing between doing things a proper and established path. That involves having two sides of the equation, both man and woman, who wants to produce a specific type of result. That's how results happen. You know how results don't happen? Being socialized into thinking that you have to be wasting your time on the marketplace for nearly 60 years to get off the marketplace with things that you should have had within your 20s. That's actually getting out of the mud. No other place gets it out of the mud. Like every other culture got it out of the mud when they lived around mud. Once they moved into modern society, they didn't care about doing things the old way. And by doing things the old way in an actual system that's rapidly changing and expanding over and over again, there ain't no way you can be able to keep up with things, even if they move a little bit. Dude, things change on a quarterly basis here in society. There is no way getting it out of the mud is going to be a viable thing going forward. Right now, skills and abilities is winning the day right now. This is why you have people who are moving rapidly into the transportation field and raising their kids off of $100,000, $200,000 a year things within the transportation field and having their actual sons and daughters turn into highly effective IT people, doctors, and lawyers on a highly successful career path. While we're just trying to figure out how do you bring the woman back to the table for the actual sake of trying to retire her. This is what I'm saying. That getting out of the mud is one of the worst things ever. And this is why the actual people of advanced degree state have a mainstay in this society, but they're not taken seriously when it comes to other societies. They don't even allow those people to speak. They don't allow those people to breed. They don't allow those people to have platforms. They don't allow their people to be mentored. They don't even worry about the concerns about the people who those people try to attach themselves to. None of that stuff happens in any other society, but it happens here. And this is why I say that getting it out of the mud is one of the worst things that you can actually put inside your head. There's established paths here already. There are lawyers out there who literally waited tables all the way through their law school and still was able to become a viable, successful adult after spending that time in those situations. After they got out of law school, after they got out of medical school. So when you call yourself trying to get it out of the mud, you're doing things the worst possible way imaginable. And these are things that we don't need to be doing in society anymore. I understand that you want to be represented by uncultured people because you know that they're not that much far ahead of you. But at some point, you're going to have to look at the cross-cultural demonstration of competition. Is everybody else trying to form in their actual opinion based on the same thing? And the answer is they're not. Then you have to look at what are you going to actually do to actually change it?
So you have to look at who benefits from getting it out of the mud. Undisciplined people benefit out of getting things out of the mud. So if you're a disciplined person who's actually researching the path that you actually own, you don't need to be getting anything out of it. But you have to have a idea that you don't want these things to actually survive beyond your actual existence to make that happen. But see, Black American society is set up like this. You don't even know that you're on the wrong path until you get on your redemption story arc. You don't need a redemption story arc to actually look around to see that these things are the wrong things to do. The people who did things in the past, I get it. They could have seen the other things too when they should have seen it. But right now, nobody needs a redemption arc. Getting out of the mud actually means the redemption arc. You don't need a redemption arc today. You can just plan your actual way through and go through it, and that's it. They already don't even respect productive men as it is. Why would you try to front, lie, steal, cheat to be what they want if you know you're actually going to be a short stay within their life in the first place? It doesn't work. No one can tell me who's trying to get behind this dude because there's some dumbass motherfuckers who can't debate it. Because if you try to debate this stuff, you have to come up with reasons. But the reasons are all emotion. They want to feel heard by people who don't listen to people like this in society and life. You got to wake up, man. This stuff is not going to get any easier than it already is. So with that said, I'm just going to invite my guest on, Mike V. What's going on, man? Thanks for coming through.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I like your analysis on this. If I can add my 2 cents, the mud is about the pride and the ego. I had a friend who had he bought a BMW from the auction as salvage, and instead of taking it to a ASC mechanic, he wanted to go buy all the parts himself and try to rebuild it from a salvage title to a clean title. And it took him 7 years just to do it. What would have taken 4 hours at a licensed BMW mechanic. And at the end, when it was all said and done, he spent more money on that car from a salvage to clean title than what he would have bought a brand new BMW off the lot. This is the sort of madness that goes on with the culture, that somehow he got it out the mud and he made it work. So therefore, that's the value out of it. The mud is about pride and ego. You didn't understand the process and you don't respect it. And so you took the long route. If I'm an IT technician, I got to understand, the amount of RAM, the amount of disk space that goes into a system. I got to understand the amount of networks and how to, subnet mask and different sort of aspects and Cat5 cables versus fiber optics and what the bandwidth is going to be. I can't just wing it from the hip. I can't shoot from the hip. These are things that I have to know going into this, or else this is going to fail. And I think what happens with a lot of Black men is their pride and their ego gets caught up in the agenda, and now all of a sudden there's no tangible results that comes out of that. And so they keep talking about the mud because that's the only place where they're going to be stuck at, is in the mud. There's nothing good that comes out of the mud. It's the mud for the reason.
Yeah, and it's like there's already an established path, man. That's already better. That their parents already know. Like there is not a group of people who graduate from high school who don't know the people who are doing way better than them in their actual class. They know what the established path is. But they hide this information from their sons and daughters intentionally so that way they can seem higher than what their actual status is in the society itself. And it really doesn't work. And it's that a lot of people say this with, like I said, it's not from a degree of track record. It's from a degree of pride.
I was able to do things the hardest way possible, and I'm proud of it. I'm like, okay, like, it was considered punishment to actually use a toothbrush to clean the actual stalls of a bathroom. It was considered torture in some areas. But there's actual ways that you can actually clean things a hell of a lot more efficiently than that. But people are so proud of doing things the wrong way just to justify the fact that they're actually on the path, no matter how long that it takes. That it's pretty crazy that people don't understand that you don't have to do things that way, man. You just don't, and it's
No,
ridiculous to do so.
no. I mean, in the military, no matter which branch you're in, there's a process to it. You never heard anybody jumping into the cockpit of an F-16 talking about, man, I just got out the mud, man. I just flew it off the runway. It doesn't work that way. And the
Actually, in the
only
actually, Mike, in the military, if you don't graduate in the top level of your school, you don't get a second chance on becoming a fighter pilot. They only take the top graduates of that class that they in. You don't get to reclassify yourself as a fighter pilot. Your ass is a damn storage pilot guy forever. You don't get to come back and retry that. You only get one shot at that. One.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have, there's like I said, in the military, there's a process, no matter which branch you're in. Even in the Coast Guard, there's a process to it. You never hear anybody who's in these sort of areas of service saying, "Hey, we just got out the mud, man. We just pulled this off, man. We just took that F-16, we got it off the ground, man. Made it work. We stole that MiG-21, and we brought it back to the United States, got it out the mud and out of the Soviet Union. They don't talk like that.
It sounds like a heist. It sounds like a heist, like a bank robbery. Like, what are you talking about? You got it out of the mud, dude. It's 2021. What? Like, I mean, like, I don't know anybody who actually went to school, bought the books for the certification, got the certification, prepared for the actual interview, worked part-time for somebody that they shouldn't, and like didn't get paid proper wages to move in an actual position to say, you know what, man, I got it out the mud. What? Bro, you ought to be proud of the process that you actually own, man. There ain't no way you can say you got it out of the mud. No, man. A process leads to results. Products leads to confusion. And the only people got to worry about is their own fear of confusion, because, see, they want to maintain their viability among these people that don't even like them and want to do things their way. And then they just turn around and just turn it over to them on downs. Like, it don't even make any sense. They get to, like, 1st and 1 at the goal line, and then they just punt the ball. Like, come on, man. What's going on?
Now, there are a few areas that you can say, yeah, you got it out the mud. Okay, you played, Metroid or Contra, with 30 men, and you made it through the whole game with 30 men, and you got it out of the mud. Okay, I can understand that, but you have to understand that the euphemism behind the idea of getting it out of the mud means that it was something dirty that happened, in the process, or the lack of a process for that matter. You don't hear Elon Musk saying he got it out the mud, man. He didn't get Tesla out the mud. He didn't get SpaceX out the mud, right?
He didn't get Bitcoin out the mud.
Yeah.
He didn't get Dogecoin out the mud.
I mean,
nobody.
There's so many black men talking about getting it out the mud, man. I'm surprised cats don't got polio out here, man. This is a whole lot of bad things that come from mud. And I just think that we lack the culture of success. We don't understand what it means to win. We're so used to losing that the mud becomes the default position to operate from.
And everybody's on their level of position of success from the quote unquote mud, because the mud is the starting point. Now success is the end point. The mud is the starting point that everybody apparently is at. And it don't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, the only time you ever see the white boys playing in mud when they're playing rugby.
Yeah.
Outside of that, you don't see them playing in mud.
No. And it's like the wrong representative who's recently successful who claim that they got it out the mud.
Like
Mhm.
you never seen like Robert L. Smith claim that he got it out of the mud, or Quincy Jones talk about how he got it out of the mud. Like that's not how successful people operate. They already want to be like people who's already successful within the environment. But since we are where we are, people like want to be like other failures within the environment at the actual level of masculinity. And it doesn't make any damn sense.
I mean, what do you call a group of black men who get it out of the mud? Do you call them like, you know, M unit? I mean, instead of G unit.
Yeah, and it's like it's not only that, it's the people who they get behind, and it's like, I want this guy to be my representative. I'm like, you wouldn't trust that guy to be a banker, you wouldn't trust that guy to power wash your cars, but you want this guy to speak on societal issues that are important for the betterment and the movement together of your actual gender? What? This is crazy.
It's unreal, man. It's unreal. Guys have been going 0-16. They've been the Browns for so long, man. That makes sense that they like the mud.
Yeah, and it's like, like here's another thing that people say: oh, we've been voting for 30 years and we ain't never get nothing. Yeah, the Cleveland Browns been in the league for a while, but until they start managing that front office and them damn draft picks, that's the only way they went to the playoffs. Dude, you got to manage your actual team how everybody else manage it. Otherwise, you're not going to get the results that other people get.
The Patriots were the same way.
Yes, for a while.
Yeah. Till Kraft took over, and that's when things changed.
Yeah. A guy who cared about winning. Who cared about it. No, that wasn't just an investment for him. He actually wanted to win. I mean, like Tom Brady complained about something on the field a couple of times. He ripped the whole damn field up. More than a couple of years over a simple complaint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All that grass and stuff under there is it's all preheated, and when they hit that grass in the wintertime, man, that's all soft like a mattress. that ain't hard like, you know, any other high school stadium or something like that, or some kind of public park. No, that's all treated correctly, you know, so that they, you know, so that the process is done right, you know, when it comes to running the game. But, you know, to this point about voting for 30 years, and we've been doing the same thing for the last 100 years, and that hasn't changed anything. I'm not seeing the results of getting out the mud. How does that help? Where's the correlation to that, right?
I mean, like, dude, technically, if you're barbarians at the gate and those people got automatic weapons and you keep attacking those people, technically you've been fighting a fight. But if you're coming in with swords and fire sticks and them people got automatic weapons, clearly put that you've been doing things wrong the entire time, man. And you're going to have to go reconsider and figure out the type of things that you need to build, because there's a building phase to this. And you can't do this while still trying to attach yourself to the outcome of an uncultured person as your actual masculinity, and actually fitting yourself within her actual ability to chase her throughout the environment is the actual standard of masculinity. And you have all these time for these other things, because most people's actual actions in society, especially most in the Black society, is based on trying to prep themselves for transport to be screwed over. Like a lot of these people, the clothes they buy, shoes, cologne, belts, cars, side of town that they live on, and even the restriction of actual real success. And even if you get real success, you have to brag like you're doing some uncultured thing and making some actual success out of it. It's all about trying to attract the uncultured person at the end of the day. So it doesn't make any real rational sense to get out of the mud in that fashion, to where you're trying to still stay viable among people who's not going to be a part of your future. It doesn't make any sense.
No, I mean, we have to challenge that part of the culture that's uncultured, and then come up with a new culture that's about success and winning. Because getting out the mud isn't winning, and it's not successful at all. No one can provide the results of getting out of the mud. No one can ever prove, you know, what the tangibles are coming out of there. The culture of success and winning has to start with following the process. literacy is really important. A lot of guys that I hear talking about getting out in the mud really can't read past the 4th grade level. You know, sometimes people will chastise me or anybody on the Brain Trust for reading the articles. And we read the articles because some people really can't read themselves. That's just reality. And we understand that. We're willing to accept that. But the process has to start with literacy and respecting that process that will lead to tangible results. And what's happening, and I'm seeing in this space, and not just in the space outside of the space, is that there's a lot of people who want to get it out the mud because they don't want to have to read
or follow anybody else. Like they want to be like they want to prestige their like uncultured like stuff into like cultured behavior. It's like, nah, man, like I'm level 99 on culture, man. Like, hey, man, I at least want to be 150 when it comes to like, nah, man. Nah, bro. Like when it comes to actual tangible, bro, like you can't come over here with that type of attitude, man. Like that's not how that works, bro.
Yeah. I you know, it's just one of those things, man. When you have this sort of, you know, space, whether it's online or offline, you got to set those standards up front. There will be no mud talk, man. there will be none of that, man. There will be a learned process applied with literacy so that we can actually get some tangible results. No more licking bowls after you finish eating it, you know, eating out of it, you know, no more drinking Kool-Aid out of a bowl because you're too lazy to wash a cup. You know, that sort of shit is not acceptable, man. Yeah. No more buying styrofoam plates, man. No more solo cups and stuff like that, man. We're gonna get real dishes and we're gonna do it correctly.
Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, you got to pour the cereal in the bowl and like, you know, have some milk in there before you just start, you know what I'm saying, you know, just go on, you know, cinnamon toast crunching, man. No, you can't do that, man. Come on, man.
Eating out of a box of cereal with your bare hands, man, just for a simple prize at the bottom of a honeycomb. Looking for a license plate.
I like that blue magnifying glass, man. Like, come on, bro.
No, but it's facts, though. It's facts. It's facts, man. There's a lot of cats out here, man, that you know, I get it, man. I get it. You're struggling with the reading. You don't like to get in, you know, get up to the front of the classroom and get on the whiteboard or the chalkboard and do the math up there like you're supposed to. Yeah, I get it. But if you actually sit down and learn the process, that's a heck of a lot better than digging around in mud, man.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm not so far behind everybody, so I'm just gonna use the mud analogy so that way I can fit in with people who just trying to just axe me down at the end of the day. Bruh, we can't keep doing it, man. And I'm not saying that we are a team because, you know, we have a bunch of individuals here, you know, who are sharing streams of like, you know, rapping attorneys and all that kind of stuff. But that's what we are, man.
No, man. I mean, this could be turned around in a generation or less.
25 years, too easy.
Yeah, this could be turned around in less than a generation, man. People have to understand that the crack era, you know, from the 70s and 80s, man, destroyed the 90s because, you know, the outcome was, you know, the 90s and the early 2000s. So you're talking 30 years. This stuff can be turned around in less than 18.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Once you improve people's literacy, and once you improve people's literacy, all that's going to change. The people who want to get it out the mud are the people who can't read and don't want to do the math.
And what people don't understand is it's literally other people are doing this. Like, you think the Asians got to 9% in this country by paying attention to us and practicing things our way? No, they came over here and they did exactly what they needed to do, and they just stayed out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Why they did it? Let us go out here and do all the stuff the wrong type of way, and they came on here and did stuff the right type of way that everybody else was getting. So now there's an actual literacy crisis in nearly every portion of the United States, and it's becoming a national security crisis because you have to hire so many engineers from outside the country because our educational system don't even create them, because our households don't even create the people who can be focused on a national plan. Like, that's what happens when you have a national plan in other places and you just allow the freedom of ignorance to take over in another place. Like, nah, man, at some point you gotta take you you gotta be able to scale this stuff down and be like, look, this stuff ain't gonna be able to work at the end of the day, man. It isn't.
Well, they'll always try to point to JayZ. Oh, he was on the block and now he's a billionaire. Yeah, but he's 1 in 1 million men. What is the percentage for that, man?
It's I mean, you know, they don't understand how high the churn rate is to produce an outcome like that. And that's such a that's not even a moon shot. That's a Pluto shot. And, you know, that's just where we at right now. And it's like, they don't understand that getting it out of mud means that there's an artificial bottom that ain't nobody going to compete for you for with as well. And that's bad too. Like, I think like the protection of the artificial bottom is something that we should have bred out of these people a long time ago, but you couldn't do it because, you know, you had no type of person who wanted to do it. You know, you was going to be the person who did it all. And then your loyalty to the entire group was going to be set upon you actually being with somebody who's uncultured at the end of the day after you did all this stuff. So it's like, bro, listen, you got to get the household straight. You can't get the household straight till you get the shelf straight. And you got to get rid of all these things that don't lead to viable solutions, bro. You don't have to wait till you're 50 years old and hope to try to talk to uncultured women about their actual outcomes, man. Like, that's a moonshot too.
Yeah.
It's only been done once, man. It's not a viable source. It isn't.
Because the mud is where the self-esteem starts, man. That's the lowest point, right? And so if they can actually create something out of the mud, then that's where their self-esteem boost comes from. And I'm saying it doesn't have to necessarily be there. If you follow the process, the mud would never be an option to begin with. That artificial bottom is exactly what the problem is.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, the mud is like, you know, flour and water. Like, of course, depending on the ingredients that you add to it, it could be something different. But at the end of the day, you don't have to start with flour and water, man. It's the basis of every meal. You don't have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, man. Dry cereal, eating it with your bare hands, it ain't got to be like that anymore, man.
No,
honeycombs or Apple Jacks, man.
You know, they got a company called Magic Spoon who has the same level of nonsense that's in those other things, but it's actually good for you, rather than come from, you know, Post and General Mills. So it's like, there are options out here, man, but you have to go after those options, and you can't keep verifiably doing things in the hardest way. Dude, it's a waste of time. Waste of time, dude.
Because you're starting below zero. You're starting from a negative position already. Why do you want to start from there? Everybody else starting from zero. You're starting from negative. Nothing good is going to come from, you know, starting from that negative position. Why don't you just start from the grid where everybody else starts?
And they're doing it for the respect of people who don't care about them anyway.
Yeah. It's like, the vanity.
I mean, so you throw on like the actual you throw on the engine brakes to actually please people at the bottom who don't even respect the actual outcome of whenever you go to the top. Like, bro, this stuff don't make any sense. And you gotta get this stuff out the head, man. And it's like, I know people want to be represented by somebody who's like them, but at some point you got to look way higher than that stuff to actually move way higher than that stuff, man.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at Q. Allegedly, he was supposed to meet with the Trump administration. And that was the big hoopla, right? Allegedly, he was supposed to. And that was the big hoopla that, oh, he's just gonna walk in there, he's just gonna talk to the administration. Get it out the mud? Nah, that's not how it works, man. There's a process behind all of this type of stuff. You have to have people, strategists who are going to help you walk through that process so that you don't look stupid when you come in there talking to somebody about your business plan or your political agenda. A lot of guys thought that he was an actual street guy. Look at the the look he has. He has a Scully cap on. He really be in the streets. So like, this guy lives in a mansion in Beverly Hills somewhere. What are you talking about?
And the other part of it is that you want bad representation so much that you don't even care about viable representation. It don't work. Yeah. No one goes after that. No one even cares about that. Everybody cares about tangibles except for the people who need the tangibles the most. How's that possible?
It's become mud porn. For lack of a better description, it's become porn to them. That's how they get their stimulation. They like to see people, walk over hot coals just to get across the street. I'm like, yo, there's a crosswalk right there, right? If you just wait, 30 seconds for the light to change, you might be able to get across there easier. You don't have to go through that whole entire long process.
Yeah, and it's like, so when you got people who have a severe lack of understanding simplistic processes, but they're hell bent on trying to get a specific result out of that process, like, I don't understand. At some point, we just got to call it, man. Like, hey, man, so what's wrong with y'all, man? Like, for real. Like, what? Why is it that we have to get behind yet another person who is not a success at all, but you want him to speak for the entire group? Like, what's going on with that, man?
I think it's an anti-hero syndrome, right? This idea that I don't rely on anybody, I don't follow any processes, I don't do any of these type of things. I just come out and just do my thing, and no one can tell me what to do. And in the long run, all of their attempts have failed to launch, failed to get it off the ground, never really got it rolling. Just like the guy with the salvage BMW, he put a lot of money into that salvage car to bring it to a clean title. He could have went and bought a brand new car.
All right, man. So let's look at the anti-heroes. Let's look at Spawn, the Punisher, Magneto. They still were fighting for relative causes that they could have solved another way, man. They just chose not to do it through the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of them chose not to do it through the process, man. Crazy.
Everybody wants to be McBain until it's time to be McBain. That's like some guys, they fire up their live streams and whatnot, man, and right from their vehicle, and talk about politics from a point that they have absolutely no clue about what they're talking about, because they're trying to get it out the mud. Well, he has this many followers, he has this many likes, and he has this many shares. All right, man. Did he get it out the mud? Yeah, I guess.
Right after we was told, by a guy with a bouquet of mics, that we need to up our actual production quality. And then like another dude come around without the production quality that everybody's getting behind. What's going on here? Nobody talked about that. Nobody.
Unreal, man. Unreal. But this is where we at. This is where we are right now. It's just one of those things. I think it can be challenged, and it should be challenged about anybody talking about mud flipping, man.
But at the end of the day, they talk a lot of noise. They take the live streams down, and then when you want to come to actually debate them, they don't even show up.
Yeah.
But they keep having their name in your mouth though. But they don't want to debate outcomes. Like, I don't get that. And they're actually rewarded by the people who watch them. Why? I don't know why. They want to feel good about it. I'm like, listen, you can't keep feeling good about not making progress That person getting paid off your non-progress. At some point, you gotta make some progress on your own, man.
I have yet to see a MLB game where a relief pitcher comes in at the top of the seventh or the bottom of the seventh and brings the game back, for and wins the game and actually closes it out. I have never seen that before when they start from a negative position.
27-0. Like, yeah, the relief pitcher's coming in. Like, nah, man, that dude's coming in to lose, man. What's going on here, man?
Yeah. Came from the dugout, got it out the mud. All right, man. It's a perfect place for it, though. It's a good story. Sounds good. But I'm not sure if
this
it's
Hollywood ending is not going to work, dude. And it's like, and these same people want to complain about immigrants who are better applying themselves to the actual environment that they are. Like, they don't make no sense either. Like, dude, they're not getting it out of the mud. They don't speak English, but they're following a specific process to move ahead of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
They already got it out of the mud by coming here illegally.
Yeah, you got guys, game guys talking about you need to start a chick. That's getting it out the mud too, I guess. I don't know if you should be doing that though.
Yeah.
From a public health standpoint.
But see, like, a lot of people want to get behind these non-viable people because they feel comfortable by being led by complete idiots. I'm like, bro, listen. Like, that's what the entertainment thing is about. Is about having a PhD, like, who actually give a damn about topics and issues, who've taken a side, who spent their life work doing some stuff, and having some rodeo clown on the stage who don't even know what's going on. You have to educate him on his point while that dude try to make his point.
Yeah.
And non-moderated panels just allow these people to just grow and grow and grow. Mm-hmm. Unreal.
Yeah.
That's where we at.
Yeah, I just think, everybody wants to be Master P. They want to sell it out the trunk. Master P, he sold 100,000 out the trunk. E40, he sold 100,000 out the trunk before he went platinum. Everybody wants, yeah.
Baby, Cash Money, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All these guys want to follow that sort of strategy. And I'm like, you could only name a handful of people that's actually done that. Why do you want to be a part of that handful when you can be a part of the greater population who started from the same grid? They all went to the same SBA classes. They all went and got a grant writer. They all went and got their business licenses and everything else. Why do you want to start from the trunk of your car or from the mud as you proclaim? What is the value to that?
Overall value. Not the current value, but the future value of getting it out of the mud. Like, does the mud turn into like diamonds at some point? Like, is there like a point in period to where it ages, and it turns into some other hardened substance after you get it out of the mud? Come on, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't pay child support. I got it out the mud. All right, man.
Or, no, I'm still gonna deal with the same people and screw child support. All right, man. What's your cultural track record? All right, man. Yeah, man, you got me, man.
This is crazy to hear black men talking like this. You never hear BWs talk about getting out the mud, man. They got a whole entire system that works just fine for them. They have no interest. They have no interest in the mud.
Listen, man. 1 out of 10 can have kids, can get grants for school and everything else. They ain't trying to get shit out of the mud. Nothing. They ain't trying to get nothing out of the mud, man.
Unreal, man. Unreal.
Think about the growth pattern.
Yeah.
Think about the growth pattern and what the growth pattern is actually centered behind.
Mm-hmm.
It's not centered behind people growing. It's about centered around people enjoying themselves and stagnating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like eyeballs are now a verified means of black male productivity. Yeah. Talking to uncultured women is now a viable means of productivity. arguing online back and forth about who watches who the most without any type of tangible results is productivity now.
Well, let's look at it this way. How many gears on a pre 2009 18 wheeler? What do you reckon? 18, 21 on a manual shift?
I mean, it's mostly 10, but it's no, it's mostly 10, but it could be 8 or even 18, 21.
Yeah,
it could be.
So
yeah.
If it's manual shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't just jump in there and be like, let me figure this out, man. I got it out the mud. Look, we're rolling. All right, man. Still got a downshift.
Hey.
Jake break.
Hey, man. There are some people who tried that shit, man. I had to kick them up out of there because I'm like, bro, listen, we're going to Utah. If you don't know how to shift, you're gonna go down that continental divide. The shit's gonna be going like 160 miles an hour. You're gonna burn the brakes out pretty fast, and then we really gonna have to get it out of the mud legally.
Unreal, man. It's unreal. I think the mud part is definitely a byproduct of jail culture. Street culture. Yeah, I definitely think that's because they're always trying. Yeah, because they're always trying to circumvent the system for what it is, right? They're always trying to figure out a way to step around it. Like the guy I was in a barbershop with, because everybody carries legally. He didn't have his strap, so he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get my cousin. He can get me the hookup." That's not how this works, man. The state has a LTA license to carry LTC process that you have to go through. You have to go take your permit, then you have to go get licensed. That's how it works. Nobody can hook you up with anything. This is the get it out the mud sort of mentality that says, I'm going to circumvent the system for what it already is so I can get to the same place that you all at. But a lot of that stuff comes out of the prison system, man. Where I'm gonna eat this guy's potato puffs and he ain't gonna do nothing about it, and I'm gonna have my own meal. And you gonna watch this? Nah, man, that's crazy. That is crazy talk.
And here's another thing, like I know people who went to like the degree program for like accounting, and then there were some people who went to like that weekend kind of boot camp for accounting, and they were shocked and surprised that they failed the test. Yeah, you're supposed to fail the test, man. Dude, you can't go and Joe blow off the street and think you're about to get your stuff in a weekend. That's crazy.
Yeah. 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 Renaissance Man says sneaking a gun through airport TSA, get it out the mud.
No, man. There was a dude who showed all the way up in like New York with an actual AK-47. He was trying to get it out the mud.
The thing is, the TSA will allow you to pass firearms through the airport if you go through the process. There's a whole entire lockbox and system that you have to go through.
Yes. Yeah.
You got to dismantle not dismantle, but you got to make sure you separate the magazine from the firearm itself in 2 different containers. Chambers clear. If it's disassembled, that's even better. There's a whole process for that. But like Renaissance is saying, dude, try to sneak it through there. It's like, what's going on here, man? Got it out the mud. But that's how they think. And I'm saying you can't really build with somebody who thinks this way, because somebody has to be driving the process. But if you have people who don't respect the process, you're bound to have this problem over and over and over again.
Crazy. And it's like, Mike, listen, they don't get how much of it like a blunt instrument that people use them as. Whenever they want to be like the mascot as a battering ram for things that don't work right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, bro, listen. Like, oh man, look at all these views. I'm like, bro, listen. This is through the politician. This is through the business owner. This is through the but is it just about being seen? Really? Is it just like, dude, that's not even some masculine level stuff. It isn't. It's like, oh man, it's like, bro, if you're being seen doing dumb level stuff, that means that it's not good.
Yeah, hashtag mud game.
Yeah. I'm like, well, we're just gonna crowd the whole space with just ignorant opinions. Like, no, man, like ain't nobody going off the cliff to like go get you out of that, man. Like, no, man, like you down there by yourself, man. Don't worry about it, man.
Yeah. But that sort of mentality came from the streets. This space wasn't always like this, right? This space was, and I'm not knocking anybody who uses the term, but the mentality that drives that sort of language is exactly why success in winning is not a part of the culture. It's just not a part of it. And so what you have is a lot of people who want to play from behind to catch up, only to find out that they're still losing.
Everybody want that redemption arc in their 40s, man. It's not something that's viable, dude.
Yeah.
It's not something that's viable, right? Like it's kind of like, when you see LeBron James take like 6 steps to the basket, not even bounce the ball, and they call him for traveling, and he like looks at and throw his hands up and be like, yeah, you just ran to the thing. It's like a outside linebacker, man. Like, couldn't nobody stop you, and you didn't dribble the ball, man. Like, dude, the shit's on tape. What are you talking about? Who are you arguing with?
Yeah. Same guys that want to get out the mud are the same guys who bought GameStop.
Yeah, $500, by the way.
Yeah.
$500 GameStop.
Yeah, and then next day it went down to $27, something like that. So
yeah, they definitely got it out the mud, man.
I mean, we see Republicans right now in Georgia trying to get it out the mud, man, by stymieing the vote process, for African Americans. Stop the steal. Get it out the mud. That's really what it comes down to. It's crazy, but it's real though. I feel sorry for a lot of guys who want to skip around the process, and try to, wing it, from the hip. That's not really how we do things like that, though.
Yeah, but they have it from the hip or not at all. I'm like, yeah, there's another person in line, man. Like, bro, you ain't the only person who's here.
Yeah.
Everybody else trying to get through too. And they're like, man, look, these other people shouldn't be here because so that way I can hear my art. I'm like, dude, artificial bottom has really ruined your mind and the way your mind works, bro. That artificial bottom shit, you were supposed to move into the dominant society at some point, man. You weren't supposed to be living down there forever.
Yeah.
There was always going to be a bottom barrel person within society, man, and it wasn't meant to be us forever.
Yeah, like Morris Warrior in the chat is saying, storm the Capitol and kill the congressman rather than try to affect policy change through voting. Get out the mud. Yeah.
Yeah, one day. One day. I forgot whose stream it was, but I had like a uncultured counterpart who said, well, what if black men like ran in and do what they did on the 6th? I'm like, they would still be picking like black hair out of like the ceiling, man.
Yeah.
Man, they would have mowed the dudes down. It wouldn't even been a question. What are you talking about, man?
Unreal.
I'm like, but this is what we are. We got to get out of the mud. Don't want to follow a specific process. Imagine you being an attorney and you trying to go, go in and try to get past legal procedure when you don't even know about it. The only thing they do is just like adjourn. What happened? What happened? Like, dude, you didn't know the law. You didn't know the process. You didn't even care. You didn't even show up dressed right. You didn't even show up with the proper briefs or process or anything else, but you expect to win just because these people are happy with it? Bro, that ain't how life works, man.
Edward Snowden got to Russia. How he got, how he did that, right? Got it out the mud. All right.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, they also downed the plane because they thought his ass was on it.
Was put it into the mud.
Yeah. Ocean floor. But that's really getting out of the mud. Actually,
man.
man, it's too far down to get out of the mud.
Crazy, but that we got to figure out a way to crack this this mentality, man, of not winning and or actually creating a culture of winning and success. There's no success in the mud.
None. There's only a process of wasting a whole bunch of time in the mud.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so all right, so you can go swim in like the nice lake that has clear waters, or you can go swim in like the Mississippi River with all the undercurrents and alligators and all that kind of shit. All right, man, get it out the mud, man. All right, man, they're gonna find your ass in like Arkansas, man.
Yeah. Nah, man, it's just one of those things, man. I just think at the end of the day, if we're going to move forward, you know, the next generation, people are going to have to understand the process, and people are going to have to respect, you know, the pathway to success. Winning has to be a part of the culture. It can't be this mudslinging that you see in this space.
Like, here's another thing, man. Like, winning is part of the process, but it's winning through the most inappropriate and ineffective means as possible. Like, that's what the winning type of stuff is. It's kind of like, you know, Mr. Caruth coming into the NFL after his 19 years behind the bars. Like, yeah, man, you know, I'm just gonna come back and just gonna pick up where I left off. Like, no, man, like, bro, it's a whole different world out here, bro. The old way does not work. You gotta come out here and you gotta compete. But a lot of people think that, well, you know what? Since I'm at the bottom, man, and nobody's competing, we'll just go do this stuff from the bottom, man. Like, I'm telling you, another group of people is going to come here, which is what happened. And those people are going to establish systems over 20 years. And if your ass ain't moving and they are consistently making incremental progress, they're going to beat your ass every time.
Mm-hmm.
You got Latinos heavy in the Mississippi Delta right now. Heavy on all the shops around town. Right now, they're buying up, like, grocery stores and shit, beating out the Arabs. We're talking about Latinos. Their numbers ain't even that big, and they out here. Listen, man, you got Latinos owning Chinese food restaurant, all you can eat in the fucking Mississippi Delta. Yeah, like, bro.
Got it out the mud.
Yeah, bro. They went from working in the kitchen to being the kitchen itself.
Crazy.
And it's like, dude, listen. You're going to have this cushion for just such a period of time. If you aim for skill supremacy, your ass is going to lose. You're going to lose your particular point, and you're going to be like, dude, like, we don't have time for 20 years of working in a donut shop until it get turned over to us as ownership. Like, we don't have that type of shit right now. You got to be able to move now. Like, most of the people I know who went to like the productivity piece had nothing to do with their parents. Had everything to do with the socialization of their schools and watching YouTube. Mm-hmm. Had nothing to do with their parents. And these people work remotely, making a gang of money, bored as shit, because now they're making 50, 60 grand a year in Mississippi doing coding. 50, 60 grand a year when most people mortgages are like 250.
Yeah.
Unreal. Bored out of their mind. Yeah, it's for real. Like, bro, like, introduce the skills and abilities and having that to be the baseline and not turning them over to the uncultured counterpart is the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Having all this over talk about guaranteed issues that you're going to run into when you deal with the counterpart is some dumb shit. It's very dumb to do that. Incredibly stupid. And it's like, why can't you just move on to other people? They did. They didn't have a problem moving on to the people who got them exactly what they wanted. And man got to be able to, like, look, you know, you got to have like a lockout, man. You know, like any other union, you got to have a lockout.
Mm-hmm.
Got to lock them out. Lock them out. Get your stuff straight. Don't give it away for frivolous ass reasoning. You're going to be fine. But a lot of people want to be like, well, what am I going to do with all this time I wasted? Hey, man, just admit it. Dude, listen, man, just admit it that you wasted the time, bro. A lot of people have to do it all the time when they change career fields and stuff. had to take those transferable skills to other careers. It's the same thing. You're gonna have to do the same thing, man. You're gonna have to sit this one out. Like the culture above us, they didn't do that for us. Those people have done that for them. They've already did the hardest thing they possibly could with no skills. That's a one generation thing, man. That's not a multi-generational, multi-generational. And like it really gets on my nerves when I see uncultured people who don't even counsel their counterparts within society talk about generational wealth. Like, what the fuck are you talking? What, you generational wealth? Ha! What are you talking about?
Generational mud.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Generational
saying.
mud. Hey,
Crazy.
thanks for having me on, bro.
All right, cool. I want to thank everybody for coming through on the Man Tomorrow. And we're just talking about, man, getting out of the mud is some really ridiculous stuff. And it's something that you don't need to do. And when you hear somebody say that, you really need to question the intelligence of the people who's actually saying those type of things. Because there really ain't no reason to be getting anything out of the mud. Everything has an established path. Getting a CDL, you don't need to get that out of the mud either. It's an established path for a very predictable result. And if you don't want a predictable result, then by all means, waste a hell of a lot of time getting it out of the mud. You guys have a really nice night. Peace.